The night was shattered by the splintering crash of my front door. At 2 a.m., 3 men in black masks stormed into our home, their heavy boots thudding against the hardwood. My wife, Emily, bolted upright in bed, her breath catching in terror. I was already moving, the old instincts of a soldier kicking in before the echo of the battering ram faded. "Stay here," I growled, my voice steady despite the adrenaline flooding my veins. "Lock the door. Call 911. Tell them it's a home invasion." Emily nodded, her hands trembling but resolute as she grabbed her phone. I snatched a heavy brass lamp from the nightstand, not a weapon, but it would do. I crept down the hallway, my heart pounding like a war drum. This wasn't just a break-in. This was personal, and I knew exactly who was behind it. My name is Ethan Marshall, a retired Army Ranger who spent 20 years dodging bullets in places where the sand burned red and survival was the only rule. Now, all I wanted was peace, a quiet life with Emily in our single-story ranch house, perched on 2 acres at the edge of a cookie-cutter subdivision. The house wasn't just a home. It was a sanctuary, built with our sweat and savings. Emily's rose garden bloomed in the backyard, and I'd spent countless hours restoring my 1967 Camaro in the garage, a project started with my late father. But peace was a fragile thing, and it started to crack the day a tow truck rolled up to our driveway. It was a Saturday, the sky a perfect blue. I was polishing the Camaro's chrome when the diesel growl of a tow truck broke the calm. A burly driver, his t-shirt stained and his neck thicker than my arm, hopped out and started hooking up my car. "HOA violation," he grunted, waving a crumpled notice. "Article 7, Section C. No vehicles older than 10 years in public view." I stared at him, incredulous. My car was on my property, in my driveway. This wasn't about rules. This was about Linda Harris, the HOA president, a woman who thrived on control, her smile as sharp as a blade. I stepped in front of the truck, my 6 feet 3 inches, 250-pound frame casting a shadow. "You're not taking my car," I said, my voice low and dangerous. The driver hesitated, his bravado crumbling under my stare. I didn't touch him. I didn't need to. A quick call to a county commissioner friend in old favor owed sent the truck slinking away. But I knew this was just the opening shot in a war I hadn't signed up for. Linda's reign over the HOA was a masterclass in petty tyranny. She'd moved into the neighborhood 2 years ago with a man she called her husband, Thomas, a quiet figure always in her shadow. When the old HOA president died, Linda seized power unopposed, turning friendly waves into fines and neighborly chats into violation notices. Grass too tall, $25. Wind chime too loud, $15. Our welcome mat, somehow, cost us another $25. It wasn't the money that stung, it was the constant surveillance, the feeling of being hunted in our own home. Emily, my rock, started to wilt under the pressure. I'd catch her glancing out the window, checking for Linda's car creeping by. Our neighbors, once friends, grew distant, poisoned by Linda's whispered lies. She told the Thompsons I'd mocked their basketball hoop. She hinted to the Lopez's that Emily called their house paint tacky. The neighborhood wasn't a community, Anna Maria, it was a battlefield. Then Linda went for blood. One evening, Emily sat at the kitchen table, her face pale, clutching a letter from the state nursing board. "Someone reported me," she whispered. "They say I'm stealing meds, treating patients while high." The accusation was a gut punch. Emily was the best nurse I'd ever known, her life dedicated to healing. This could ruin her career, her reputation, everything she'd built. I didn't need to ask who was behind it. Linda's fingerprints were all over this. She wasn't just targeting my car or our home, she was trying to burn our lives to the ground. I was done playing defense. The soldier in me woke up, cold and calculating. I started digging. Public records revealed oddities. Linda's house was bought in cash, far above market value, and HOA funds were bleeding into shadowy accounts. I watched her, noting her routines: grocery store on Mondays, dry cleaners on Tuesdays, and mysterious Wednesday trips to an office park. Then there was the black van with no plates, idling down the street. Our neighbor, George, a retired mechanic with a wild imagination, swore it was a government op. "Spider tattoo on the driver's neck," he whispered, clutching his poodle, "Colonel. He's a spook." I humored George, but when I saw Linda hand the driver a thick envelope, my gut told me this was bigger than HOA games. She was hiring muscle. The final straw came with the home invasion. When those 3 thugs smashed through our door, I was ready. I flicked on the hallway lights, blinding them as they stumbled in. The first, a hulking figure with a crowbar, took a lamp to the shoulder, collapsing with a grunt. The second, the spider-tattooed driver from the van, lunged clumsily. I ducked his punch, drove my palm into his nose, and slammed him into the wall. The third hesitated, then tried to run. I hooked his ankle with the crowbar, sending him crashing to the floor. In 10 seconds, they were down, hogtied with duct tape as sirens wailed in the distance. Emily emerged, her voice steady as she confirmed the police were coming. I stepped onto the porch, crowbar in hand, and locked eyes with Linda across the street. "How dare you fight back?" she shrieked, her composure cracking. I leaned close to the tattooed thug as the cops cuffed him. "Tell Linda she sent you to the wrong house," I whispered. "Next time, they won't walk out." The police were impressed. 3 intruders neutralized, no serious injuries. Detective Larson, a sharp-eyed major crimes cop, smelled the setup. "This wasn't random," he said. "Got any enemies?" I mentioned Linda, the HOA harassment, the tow truck. I held back my ace, what I'd uncovered at Willow Creek Assisted Living. Linda's husband, Thomas, was a lie. The real Thomas Harris had been in a nursing home for 5 years, lost to Alzheimer's. The man in her house was a fraud, a puppet in her scheme. But why? The answer came from an unlikely source: George, clutching a grainy printout from a North Carolina newspaper. It was an obituary for Private Daniel Harris, killed in Afghanistan. His mother? Linda Harris. My blood ran cold. I knew that name. Farah Province, a botched mission I'd led. Daniel was in my squad, a brave kid who died under my command. I'd written the letter to his mother, never admitting I'd questioned the mission's flaws. Linda hadn't moved here by chance. She'd hunted me down, her grief twisted into a decade-long vendetta to destroy my peace. The HOA meeting was my battlefield. I rallied the neighbors, stoking their anger over Linda's crippling special assessment fee that could lean their homes. The community center was packed, the air electric with tension. Linda sat at the front, cool as ice, her fake husband, Paul Carter, fidgeting beside her. I stood, my voice cutting through the murmurs. "I have a question," I said, tossing a file of police reports onto the table. "Why did you hire men to break into my home?" The crowd gasped. Linda's eyes blazed, but I pressed on. "And Paul, tell us, did Linda use your gambling debts to make you play her husband?" Paul froze, his face ashen. The room erupted, but I wasn't done. "This isn't about rules, Linda," I said, my voice softening. "This is about Farah Province. About Daniel." I placed a faded photo of her smiling son on the table. He was a hero. I failed him. I've carried that every day. Linda's mask shattered. A sob tore from her throat, raw and broken. Her war wasn't about power, it was about a mother's unbearable loss. The room fell silent. Paul was arrested for fraud. Linda moved out days later, a frail figure hauling boxes to a truck. I crossed the street before she left. "I'm sorry for Daniel," I said. She nodded, wordless, and drove away. The HOA dissolved its draconian rules. The neighborhood healed. Emily and I reclaimed our peace, not through vengeance, but through a painful truth that broke Linda's hate. The ghosts of my past had come for me, but in facing them, I found redemption not just for me, but for a grieving mother who'd lost everything.